Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, CesarRespino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, CesarRespino, and today I have a special guest. His name is jrobertparker. Hey, Robert, how are you, man?
Hi there. I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to have you here. And before we dive in, I want to give our listeners and viewers a little bit of your background, and that way they can get to know you, and then we can dive in.
Okay.
So Robert is a union certified master hypnotist and owner of the Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy and Research LLC. Educated at HMI College of Hypnotherapy, his passion is helping people overcome their limiting beliefs and self-images to become a version of themselves that they are able to unconditionally love. That's amazing. And we were just talking about this right before we started the interview. About the hypnotherapy and some of the different elements, and so definitely want to dive into that. Tell me, where were you born, and how was your upbringing? Because I think this is gonna be one of those topics, right? When you think about the mind and all of that stuff, a lot of things that we developed in the first couple of years are the things that are gonna follow us throughout our lifetime, right?
Well, I was born in the suburbs. Like, I had the most middle class, middle of the road upbringing. Like, I literally grew up in the little house in the suburbs to a single mom. I I had the most stereotypical 90s child life. And uh also for a lot of the things that came with that. Like, I was given the whole go to college, get a successful job, work hard, you'll be taken care of, have a house and a family and 2.5 kids. That whole thing. And uh that didn't work out,
Yeah,
to
right.
say the least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, right? That we're kind of trained or programmed
Mhm.
from birth, right? To kind of
Yeah.
do that. And I know for me that was the case too. Go to school, get a good education, and kind of go through that whole aspect that you just talked about. And perhaps it was that way many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, perhaps, or it's just that illusion or that program that society, the government, or whoever is kind of trying to implant in your head,
Yes.
and you follow that through, right?
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of times it does not work. And I think it was Les Brown. He talked about the people are literally dying to work on Mondays, and that between 8 and 10 a.m. on Mondays is when we have the most heart attacks, because
Yeah.
people are going to jobs that they don't like. People are having this lifestyle that they don't enjoy.
One of the things that is most damaging to me personally is going to a job you hate. And there's people that have done that for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the dread that I've felt before going into work, knowing that as much as I hate it, as much as I cannot stand every moment of being there, that I'm making pocket change to be there, that I'm barely making ends meet for this extreme stress. And a lot of millennials, and I say this in full disclosure, myself included,
Mm-hmm.
suffer from imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And I just to kind of, I don't know if your listeners know what that is, but it's this sense that you're I always say like a kid wearing my dad's suit. Like you feel like a child going about an adult's life or an imposter fulfilling this role. And one of the things that I learned in my education is that it's very pervasive in my generation because we were told that whole, oh, hey, here's your blueprint for life.
Mm.
If you do this, you succeed. And it didn't work quite as well. And so now we're left with this, well, the world isn't what we were told. And as I learned in learning hypnotherapy, the things we learn when we're young, the way we're brought up, specifically from the ages of 0 to 8, has a lot of bearing on everything. That's when our so to speak, life script is written. And that's when you're brought up knowing these things. And so our base programming kind of goes against reality. So now a lot of my generation is stuck with this, well, what does it really mean? We were told what it means to be an adult, and we don't really get those things. So now what defines this generation as adult? And it's interesting to see because, and I talk about this often, the nostalgia is strong in our generation. Like we look back to the 90s, to like the cartoons and the games and the toys, and I do this myself, and it's such this weird satisfaction because I guess it represents that time, that different time when we still kind of believed everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's huge, and kind of going back to that, at which point in your life, or did you said, yeah, this is not gonna work out for me, right? I'm not gonna be able to do that thing that has been installed in my mind. Like I gotta change dynamics or do something different.
Not for a while. I went really off the path. Um, I got a job really young, making a lot of money, and I I became a very, very arrogant, very selfish person. And eventually that mentality led me to get heavily involved with drugs. And I eventually, through a series of escalations, ended up smoking meth and burned my life down and lost everything I've had two, three times over.
Mm.
And did a lot of dumb things, paid a lot of consequences, and really had to stop and think like what's working out? What's really working? And I even remember having that moment when I was strung out where I realized I was absolutely going to die if I continued down that path. And I thought it was funny. And that's probably not a good place to be in life. And I I got clean and I really didn't know what to do with my life at
Sure.
all. And it was really kind of challenging my sobriety at that point because like I initially kind of got on it because I was feeling hopeless, and now I'm feeling hopeless again, but I don't have this escape. And I'm very much a believer in everything happens for a reason, that everything you go through, good or bad, ultimately is for something. And I hit a really low point and I wasn't using again, but I did feel I was drinking, which is unusual for me because I'm not the biggest fan of alcohol.
Hmm.
And I just didn't really know what to do. And I got a job as a cook because I live in a place where there's not a lot of opportunities. Uh, and I kind of moved here to get away from a city. And it's very different out here. I live in a little town of 1,000 people. It's As long as you don't interact with the people, it's a beautiful place. Uh, but I ended up working at a restaurant as as a line cook, making no money at all, absolutely hating my job,
Mhm.
being the stereotypical, very aggravated line cook. But I learned how to cook, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I also met the woman I've been with, and I absolutely love her. It's been the longest relationship I've ever had, the easiest, most stable relationship. And so we were living together when the pandemic hit, and obviously we were both in the restaurant industry, so we lost our jobs, and I had to kind of figure out what to do. And I I started reading tarot cards,
Mm.
and I was doing it. I was making good money, much better money than I initially thought, initially
Yeah.
going forward. But the job was a double-edged sword. And on one side, there were these people that would come to me and be like, my boyfriend who's been with me for 5 years, cheating on his wife with me, uh, isn't leaving his wife. So is he going to leave me and be faithful to me and be together forever with me? And
Yeah.
no, uh,
Yeah.
very
Right.
easy. But the other side to that is these people that were coming to me with genuine problems, because you're not calling a phone psychic unless
Right.
you've got some problems. And I wasn't so much reading these people's fortunes, so to speak. I was using the tarot and the archetypes of tarot to kind of explain their problems to them. And oftentimes I found that just explaining someone's problems to them from a different perspective, giving them that different viewpoint to look at things, completely changes the way they look at it and the way they resolve it. And I found out that these people that were intensely grateful that I was able to help them, that made me feel really good.
Mm.
And like I said, I've spent most of my life as a pretty crappy person. Like, I can objectively say that.
Mhm.
And I I felt really good about helping people. And I thought to myself, how can I do this? How can I only do this? And it literally fell into my lap. I've not really had much interest in hypnosis before. Like, I've got like one book from the turn of the century
Mhm.
on like crazy old hypnosis stuff, but like it's never been a real interest of mine. And this college I attended fell into my lap. And I called, and I liked what they were saying. I thought it was interesting. They offered neat things like handwriting analysis and how to use all the fancy little biofeedback toys to monitor hypnosis and things like
Yeah.
that. So I signed up, and it's the most incredible thing that I've ever done. Like, both from a standpoint of hypnosis is wonderful. It's that whole the mindfulness and the subconscious programming, it's it's changed me. Like,
Mm.
I feel unrecognizable from myself. Like, I don't really recognize the man I used to be. I don't understand that person anymore.
Right.
And it's because of these things I was taught, this way to view life in your mind, and like NLP, the whole just pay attention to your thoughts is really what it is, and make sure you're thinking appropriate things, like keep your mentality success oriented if that's what you want. And I've it's gotten me from absolutely nothing to, I'm considering buying land, and that's now my goal. I have goals. That's
That's
never
huge.
been a thing with my life. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
actual goals. I know what I want.
Yeah.
And it's long-winded, but that's kind of how I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's actually a couple of things that you mentioned that I think are critical. The first one, You obviously, as you mentioned, one of your biggest challenges has been the limited mindset and the
Mhm.
selfish past that you had, and being able to overcome that, right? And
Yeah.
so, kind of taking that and going back to the time where you probably were in some of your darkest moments and were very heavily involved with drugs. For those that might be listening or might be going through that, obviously, as a matter of fact, I just got a friend recently who passed away, just because there was so much stuff going on in his head, so many things involved. So some people can come out of that. Some people, unfortunately, just don't know
Mhm.
how to come out of that. So from your experience, if you can give me some tactics or some of the things that help you turn around and say, you know what, I don't want to keep going this path. What was that motivation, or what was that drive for that initial bump to help you say, you know what, I gotta change this because this could end really bad. As you mentioned, you're in the verge of probably even dying, right? So,
Yeah. Well, in 2015, I had twins, and they, my kids have been a big part of motivating me to be a better person.
yep,
Like it's, I always, it's always part of my thoughts because I tell my clients, question why you do everything. Like, what is your motivation? And for the first time, because of the practices that I myself take, I had to question my own motivations. And it really boiled down to uh, a combination of my children and self-respect. I actually came to realize what that meant because for my entire life, the people that have known me for a very long time, when they learned that like I became anything that helped people and was sympathetic, it blew their mind. Uh, because I'd not been that guy,
mm-hmm.
but but I was always the guy that was like, "Hey, you don't need therapy. That's you're not
Yeah,
crazy. That's stupid. It's weak. Blah blah blah." Not realizing that that mentality, that not wanting to reach out for help and get help, and that that keeps you from being strong. That in itself is a weak mindset. That and a lot of it's our society that men especially are very discouraged from speaking about their feelings and flaws and things like that, and that has to change. Even now, uh, men are somewhat hesitant to contact me for my services. I have very few male clients. Most of my peers have very few male clients because I guess there's that mentality, and I understand it because I had it myself.
right.
And that's one of my goals in reaching out to people is letting everyone know that like talking about your problems, getting help, getting therapy or hypnotherapy or whatever, that doesn't make you less of anything. It makes you better. It makes you a better version of yourself. You're not weak for sharing your feelings. That whole concept is dumb. And even if you just want to start hypnotherapy to like improve your golf game, which you absolutely do, it's kind of a neat trick. But I'll I still I'll always get those people to let me know a little bit about what's actually going on because nobody's life is perfect.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I everyone can benefit from talking to somebody, even if it's not hypnotherapy and actively trying to change your associations. Like even just talking to somebody. And more than that, if there's anything I can really stress to people who have had a hard life, and especially people who have suffered with addiction and overcame it, there's a burden you always carry, and that burden can be lifted by helping people. And that's really the thing I found that you wonder to yourself, all of this trauma, all of these bad experiences I've put myself through, what's it even worth? And the answer to that is it's worth it to someone else. You can use the bad experiences in your life to prevent that from happening to somebody else. And if you can keep somebody from making the mistakes that you made, that's all worth it. And if you could keep multiple somebodies from making the mistakes that you've made, that's that's kind of worth it in the end. And it makes you feel better. It kind of lifts that burden. It lifts that question of what was this all for? When that first person is like, man, you helped me. You saved me. You changed the way I thought. That's that's worth it, at least to
Yeah,
me.
right. Yeah, I like the idea of what you were talking about, and constantly looking at how you're changing your associations, because that's critical. I think
Mhm,
I think that's huge. Definitely, that's huge.
mhm,
One of the things that I can think of, specifically for people that want to that are looking to overcome any kind of addiction, whatever that might be, whether it's smoking, drinking,
mhm.
doing drugs, or even just having really bad habits, right, that are not serving you. I always think and go back to that point of, if I keep hanging around with a crowd that is constantly doing that, well, that habit or whatever that's taking place may
Mhm.
never change.
Yes.
Once I decide to disengage from that association, that's gonna start trickling down and changing. So sometimes we don't see that, right? We're like, why
Yeah.
known this person for like 20, 30 years, or I grew up together. Yet if they're not serving you, you got to be able
Yeah.
to outgrow that to an extent and say, you know what, I love you, and I gotta do different things. We can still talk in, not as frequently as we're doing it. And
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah. And it's the when people ask what's the best way to get clean and to change yourself, I've it's one of the first things I was taught, and it's the most effective thing, and that's change three things: your people, your places, and your things.
Mm,
Change the people you associate with, the places that you go, and the things that you do. Break that cycle, because addiction, the cycles of addiction, I feel, aren't just about the whatever you're doing. It's about the behavior associated with it. It's about that lifestyle. And you hang around the people that are associated with that. You go to the places that are associated with that. You do the things that are associated with that. And I'm a firm believer of you're only as good as the people you affiliate with.
mm.
And that if you hang around the lowest of the low with no motivations to do anything in life, that will be you as well. And the times in my life that I have done the best are the times that I've associated myself with people that were doing something that had that motivation. And associations are pretty much what I do because they work for and against us. You mentioned smoking. People, so many times, people talk about how, oh, I tried to quit and I just can't. Well, it's because you consciously want to quit. Subconsciously, you still have that association that smoking makes me look cool, or it makes people accept me, or whatever that association is. Until that core association is broken, that cycle is broken, and a new association made, it's going to be very difficult to quit.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely love that. The other point that you made is everything you're going through, good or bad, there's a purpose, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes we don't see that. We don't see, how is this bad thing that happened to me? I lost my wife, my husband, I got into an accident, I lost my job, I have no income, I'm homeless, whatever. How is that
Hmm.
instance serving me? And I think that's a very challenging thing for us to be able to overcome. I myself
Yeah.
have gone through that in the past too, yet looking back now, I see like, I get it now,
It's
I understand it,
really obvious when you look back.
right.
Every bad thing, it's like, oh yeah, that was just really crappy, but yeah, I totally see why that happened.
Right.
Yeah, and it's it's happened so often in my life that even when the bad things do happen at this point, I'm just like, man, you're gonna laugh about this in a couple months, like,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and I always do.
Yeah. Well, and then so knowing that, right, and going into something like that, I mean, again, we all have bad moments. We're all going to have these challenges, except how we think of those challenges and how what we do about those challenges
Hmm.
is going to determine whether or not you're falling apart, or you're actually creating something huge and big, right? And
Yeah,
and that's I think that's something that anyone listening, anyone watching, just because you might be going through a difficult time right now, a challenging time, it does not mean that it's not going to be something great for you. You got to be able to continue to
absolutely.
work through, right?
Absolutely. And every time I speak to somebody that has challenges, we all do, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. I always stress that it's about mindset. And the example that I give, like I said, I've not been a great person. I used to have bad reactions.
Hmm.
And for example, I was talking to my kids the other month, and the water heater that's somewhere behind me exploded. Luckily, it's a tankless water heater, so I'm still alive.
Yeah.
But it was very obvious something very critical had happened, and I ran to where it is, and of course, there's water and steam everywhere, and havoc, and yeah. And the old me, the way I've been most of my life, would have just been furious thinking about, man, I didn't have to. I want to spend this money. I all this work I'm going to have to do. Even turning this thing off is going to be a chore. But I looked at it and I just went, man, thank God I've got the money to pay for this. And that was it. Like I never went through that stress of freaking out over the work or the money or anything like that. I just got it done, did the work, and now it's fine. And I
Right.
didn't go through that trauma because of the way I chose to view it, and I chose to vocalize my my emotion. And that's a lot of it, is what how do you talk to yourself? What do you say out loud when
Mm.
you tell yourself that this sucks, I'm pissed about it? Your subconscious hears that, it knows it sucks, and it decides you're pissed about it. And it's when you say those words out loud that this isn't that bad, your subconscious gets that too, and it thinks it's not that bad, and it goes about its business. You are, as a human being, so much more capable in than you think you are, and your brain is so much faster and so much smarter than you think it is. It's just that part of your brain that you don't talk to very often. It's that 88% or whatever that roundabout number is that makes up your subconscious. That's most of your thought. And it we don't it's like we don't think about it because we can't really think about it. Our that there's a critical filter is what we call it in our mind, is what we take down in hypnosis, that keeps kind of your conscious mind and your subconscious mind from talking. um, there are 2 points where that filter goes down. If you ever wake up in the morning and get like a really good idea, like that's when your good ideas come. It's
Hmm.
because that's one of the 2 times in life that you're naturally in hypnosis.
Hmm.
And that seamless logic that you're able to apply, the way everything seems to come together and make sense, it's because that's one of the few times you get to actually have your subconscious mind at work actively. uh the other time is right before you go to sleep. But that state, that inspirational state that allows you to so easily construct all of these concepts and ideas, we can manually call that state up. We can make that happen on at any time. And that's really the core of what I do. Is I love being able to see that moment in session where people put those pieces together in hypnosis and everything just clicks.
Yeah.
And that's
No, that's awesome. So, just to kind of get an idea for those people that don't know what's a hypnotherapy, just
Mhm.
maybe give me a quick overview of what is that, or how you go about coaching and or helping people through the hypnotic aspect of that, and what's hypnotherapy.
Well, hypnotherapy is a wide variety of things because it has a wide variety of uses. Uh, Somebody that was coming to me to stop smoking would generally get kind of a different experience than somebody who was coming to me, say, to try to overcome negative associations from trauma. And um, I do a lot of like client case history. Like there's a lot of paperwork to fill out,
Hmm.
and I all the experience is kind of tailored specifically to the client. And I it's one of those I don't go so much as what's said as much as what's implied, because somebody might tell you that this is my issue and this is why. But like smoking, like, oh, I just like to smoke. Okay. Well, after a little bit of investigation, you figure out there's childhood associations around smoking. Uh, Dad smoked a certain brand of cigarettes, and then dad died at a young age. So you started smoking that brand of cigarettes because the smell reminded you of your lost dad. And it really sometimes boils down to things like that. Just these strange associations that we don't even think is really behind our motivations. Um, but hypnotherapy is it's much like traditional therapy, but there is a second half where I take this information that we've discussed and I use it to form a a journey, so to speak. The we put you in hypnosis, we get that access to your subconscious, and then we speak to your subconscious. Basically, you are still you're 100% aware during hypnosis. It's a very relaxing state. It's fun, I think. A lot of people think it's fun, and it's we change those associations, and sometimes that's done through direct suggestion, like you will begin to think this way. Sometimes that's done through metaphor. One of my favorite metaphors to use is particularly for clients who are dealing with abusive people. And have you ever heard the story of the frog and the scorpion?
I have not. So let's do it.
So it's old, and no one knows where it comes from. They might, and I just might be pulling that out, but I don't know where it comes from.
Right.
But there's a frog trying to cross a river. He's getting ready to cross, and a scorpion walks up to him and asks him for a ride. And the frog looks at the scorpion and goes, "No, you can't have a ride. You're a scorpion. You'll sting me." And the scorpion says, "No, trust me. We'll be fine." And so the frog thinks about it for a moment and says, "Okay, climb on." The scorpion gets on the frog's back and they start to swim across. And they get halfway across the river and the scorpion stings the frog. And as they are both drowning, the frog turns to the scorpion and goes, why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die. Um, Scorpion turns to the frog and says, because I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature.
Mm.
And that says is you know what somebody is generally, and you choose to ignore it. It's like I say as well, when you wear rose colored glasses, red flags just look like flags. And you, people know you know who this person is before you deal with them. You know they're a scorpion, and yet you're shocked when they sting you,
Mm.
because you trusted them because they said to trust them. So, and it's metaphor like that that specifically speaks to your subconscious. It's why a lot of our fairy tales and folklore and things like that, it's generally trying to teach something. And the reason we tell stories is because subconsciously our subconscious loves metaphor, and it's able to parse the meaning from that metaphor. Even if we consciously don't, our subconscious often understands it. It understands kind of the morality play that's going on, the life lessons that are trying to be taught, and more so, it sees examples in others, specifically because of a thing in our brain called a mirror neuron, where we're able to see something do something, and be able to mimic it. In that same way, we are able to hear a story and
Mhm.
apply ourselves to that story and kind of gather those life lessons.
Yeah, no, that that's pretty amazing, and I love the idea of a lot of people think of hypnotherapy or hypno, like, going to a show and doing all
Hmm.
this funny stuff, right? Yet it's beyond that, and I like the idea of or the concept of really tapping into the unconscious
Hmm.
mind, um, and kind of really speaking to that to help you create an impact
Yes.
in your life, or whatever it is that you're trying to improve, whether they're beliefs, emotions, or associations, as we were talking,
Yeah.
which is huge, right?
Yeah.
In terms of people wanting to work with you, where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Excuse me. Well, the good news is I work fully remote. So just because I live in the boondocks does not mean you cannot work with me. Uh, the easiest way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.twinravens.org, all one word, .org, not .com. Search us on Facebook, Twin Ravens Hypnotherapy and Research LLC, or you can just directly shoot me an email at jrobertparker, all one word, at protonmail.com. And like I said, and it's anything you want to work with, be it improving your golf game or overcoming something you've always wanted to. The one thing I will say, and I always give this disclaimer in every show that I do, one
Mhm.
of the things hypnosis does not do, and I get requests for this often, we do not recover memories. If you have a thing you can't remember, like something happened in your childhood and you want to learn what it was, uh-uh. Your subconscious blocks those things for a reason. And it is unethical to recall that trauma, and it's questionable whether or not the memory that is recovered will be accurate to begin with. So that is the one and only thing really I cannot help you with, is recovering lost memory. That's not really a thing, and if there is a hypnotist that is willing to do that, it's ethically questionable.
Right.
But I just like to get
Yeah.
that disclaimer out there.
No, I definitely love it. I have one last question for you. And we talked about a lot of different things, and maybe you can give me one more. If the people that are watching us or listening to us, if they are going through any challenge, whatever that challenge might be, what is one thing that they can start doing to start overcoming that challenge?
Alter your surroundings. Uh, if your place is a little messy, clean it up. If if you lack ritual in your life, put some in. Make your coffee in the morning. Go for a walk. Like, do, even if it's just sitting on your porch and doing nothing. It's that ritual. It's getting in that pattern. And start to build a pattern of success, of positivity. And once once you alter your own personal pattern, there's so many things that can happen around you at that point. And it's all about breaking that cycle. Even if even if what is challenging you is completely outside of your influence, you cannot do anything about it. You still have a cycle up here that you need to break. And half of what makes our problems so hard is the way we think about them. And I used to be very pessimistic. And one of the things I learned in being a pessimist is that nothing is ever quite as bad as you think it is. That the worst possible situation very rarely happens.
Mm.
It's the best possible situation very rarely happens as well. but you come to realize that there's no point to that negativity. So it's all about changing your surroundings and changing your patterns to change your mindset. We all face challenges and it's difficult, but make sure that your surroundings are good. Make sure that the people that surround you support you. That's a big thing if somebody's going through a challenge. Make sure you have the support. Like you said, even if you knew someone for 20 years, if that's not healthy, if they're not helping build you up, then that's something you need to distance yourself from. So just change your surroundings, change your outlook, find positive things to do. Find things to do for others that make you feel good. Not for the purpose of feeling good necessarily, but it helps uplift you. And that's really what I want to stress to people is our society has become far too selfish and it's reaching some type of weird critical mass right now, and we need to get back to helping each other. And we're all people. We all go through the same things. We all do the same things. So help each other. One of
Mhm.
the big form a community, find a community, like be a part of something more than just you. Like I said, for decades, I was a very selfish person. And through that reaching out to help and help others, it's given me an understanding of myself and made me more okay with myself. For the first time in 38 years, I could legitimately say that I like myself. And that's a substantial thing.
Yeah.
So just keep your head up, keep your
Yeah, I
surroundings
love
good,
it.
keep your head right.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Definitely, surroundings, associations, all of that. Talking about
Hmm.
rituals, do you have any habits, rituals that you do every day to help you stay in this positive mindset, or just keep going through your day?
Um, I do a lot of self hypnosis.
Okay.
I have there's something the school um I actually have it right here does. It's a program called Mental Bank,
Yep.
and it's basically using not money as a motivator, but the concept of money like as a fake number to kind of get your brain there. And part of that is also uh affirmations and gathering the good things that you've done through that day, the actually taking stock of your mindset for the day and of what was important to you,
Yeah.
and doing that every day has really helped to get my head to a better place and to help me keep that in mind. um Other than that, for ritual, I mean, I like candles, so I there's
Yeah.
always a weekly candle that I do all the time,
Yeah.
and it's become such strong superstition at this point,
Yeah.
but that's good. That's good though. If you can link your rituals, your daily ritual to superstition, that you think, man, I have to do this for my day to go good. Awesome. You've subconsciously convinced yourself that once you do that thing, your day goes good. So if you can alter your mindset through a physical act, that's just a hypnotic anchor. That's
Hmm.
something we do in treatment.
Yeah. 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 No, I love it. I love it. Well, Jay Robert, thank you again for being
Thank
here.
you for
Anything else
having
before I
me.
let you go?
No, anyone that wants to get a hold of me, you absolutely let me know how I can help you.
Yep.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I've had a great time.
Definitely, definitely awesome. And for the rest of you guys, please do me a favor. Make sure you check out his web page, connect with him, and reach out to him. And do me a favor, share this message because somebody definitely needs to hear this message. And I will see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm CesarRespino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.